There's a moment in life when we've worked, prayed, and planned for something with everything we've got. We gave it our all. And then suddenly that dream we were chasing, it's gone. The door slams shut. The opportunity vanishes. The answer comes in a whisper or sometimes in a thunderclap. No. That's when it hits. Confusion, pain, doubt. You ask yourself, God, why would you say no to something good? Why would you deny me the very thing I believed you prepared me for? You don't hear a reason, no explanation, just silence. Avoid where your dreams used to live. But let me tell you this, God's no is not rejection. It's redirection. When God says no, he's not turning his back on you. He's turning you towards something greater. You see, what looks like a closed door from your perspective might be a divine detour from his. And sometimes what you think is a setback is really a setup. Inky Johnson thought his life was all about football. He trained, bled, and sacrificed for the NFL. He had the skill. He had the heart. He was just one game away from fulfilling his dream. Until one hit left him with a paralyzed right arm, his dream was shattered. His identity shaken. He was forced to face God's no in the most painful way possible. But look at him now. He's not wearing an NFL jersey, but he's impacting millions. His voice is stronger than his arm ever was. His testimony is louder than any stadium cheer. Why? Because God said no to Inky the athlete, but yes to Inky the messenger. He was redirected, not rejected. You and I, we've all been in that place where life takes a turn we didn't ask for. Maybe you didn't get the job. Maybe the relationship ended. Maybe the healing didn't come. Maybe the dream didn't come to life. And you thought, did I fail? Did I not pray enough? Did I do something wrong? But it's not about failure. It's about faith. Sometimes God removes what you thought was essential so he can give you something eternal. You were praying for comfort. He was preparing you for calling. You were asking for a breakthrough. He was building you through the breakdown. Let me be real with you. The road to purpose is rarely straight. It's filled with unexpected turns, painful stops, and divine delays. And here's the hard truth. Sometimes God will disappoint your plan to deliver his promise. But there is beauty in that kind of disappointment because it's divine. When Joseph was thrown in a pit by his brothers, he didn't know that no was leading him to Pharaoh's palace. When Moses was denied entry to promised land, he didn't see that. No was part of God's greater plan to raise up Joshua. When Jesus cried in Gethsemane, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me, he still surrendered to the will of the Father. That no on Friday became a resurrection on Sunday. So if you're in a season where God's answer was, nah, don't lose heart, that no might be the very thing saving you. That no might be protecting you from a path that looks good but leads to destruction. That no might be stretching character, strengthening your faith, and shaping your destiny. You wanted comfort, but he's training you for calling. You wanted easy, but he's building you for eternal impact. You wanted a blessing, but he's making you a blessing. You see, God doesn't reject his children. He redirects them, always toward the plan he designed before you were even born. It might hurt, it might not make sense, and it might not be what you wanted. But in the end, it will be better than anything you could have imagined. So lift your head, wipe your tears, keep walking. The no you receive might be the start of your greatest yes, because when God says no, he's not saying you're done. He's saying you're not finished. You're just being rerouted. Follow me. And that's when tragedy becomes triumph. Not when the pain disappears, but when you realize it had a purpose all along. There's a reason we all go through pain. And no, I'm not just talking about the kind that leaves physical scars. I'm talking about the kind that rattles your soul. The kind of pain that knocks the breath out of your chest. The kind that makes you question everything you once believed. You lose a dream. You bury a loved one. You fail when you gave it everything. You cry alone at night, and no one even knows the battles you're fighting. But hear me today, pain is not pointless. Pain is not punishment. Pain has a purpose. Most people try to run from pain. They numb it, escape it, ignore it. But pain is a teacher, one of the greatest teachers you'll ever have, because it teaches you things comfort never could. Pain will expose who you really are. It will show you what you truly believe, and it will force you to either give up or grow stronger. Look at the lives of people who made a real difference in this world, and you'll see a pattern in pain, not perfection, not privilege, but pain. Let me tell you something powerful. You don't need a perfect life to live with purpose. You need a painful one that you refuse to waste. Inky Johnson, the man who was one hit away from the NFL, he had pain, not just the physical pain of a paralyzed arm, but the spiritual pain of watching his lifelong dream vanish in a second. But did he let that pain defeat him? No, he used it. He turned it into fuel. He let it become his platform. The pain didn't break him. It built him. And I'll ask you the same thing today. What if the very thing you're trying to get rid of is the very thing God is trying to use? What if the pain that feels like it's destroying you is actually preparing you? You see, pain builds empathy. It builds resilience. It builds perspective. And most importantly, it builds purpose. You start seeing life differently when you've suffered. You become more grateful. You stop judging others. You understand people in ways that books and lectures could never teach you. Let me remind Yug, no diamond was ever made without pressure. No sword was ever forged without fire. No strong heart was ever formed without pain. Maybe your pain isn't punishment. Maybe your pain is preparation. Maybe God is using that storm to cleanse your soul, not crush your spirit. I know the world doesn't celebrate pain. It celebrates the highlight reel, the victories, the trophies, the applause. But those things mean nothing without the process behind them. And pain is always part of that process. If you're in a valley right now, let me speak this over you. Your pain is not in vain. Your tears are not wasted. And your scars are not shameful. They're evidence that you fought battles and survived. Pain didn't come to stop you. It came to shape you. It came to strip away what's fake and leave behind what's real. It came to kill the version of you that was weak, afraid, or entitled, so the real you could rise. And you don't have to understand the purpose in the middle of the pain. You just have to trust that there is one. Because some of the most painful moments in your life will become the most powerful stories you'll ever tell. You thought the pain was there to break you, but it was really there to bless you. You thought the pain was the end, but it was really just the beginning. Don't curse the season that's trying to teach you something. Don't run from the struggle that's trying to grow you. And don't give up on the life that still has so much left for you just because it hurts right now. Your pain is valid. Your pain is real, but your pain is not final. Let it push you forward. Let it deepen your faith. Let it ignite your purpose, because pain is not the enemy. Wasting it is. So the next time life gets hard, the next time the tears fall, the next time you feel like you've got nothing left, remember this, your pain is not random. Your pain has a purpose. And on the other side of that pain, there's power, there's purpose, there's you stronger, wiser, braver than ever before. Everybody says they have faith until that faith is tested. Easy to believe when life is good. It's easy to say God is in control when the bills are paid, the job is secure, the body is healthy, and the road ahead is smooth. But what happens when the bottom drops out? What happens when the doctor says it's cancer? What happens when you give everything to a dream and it still falls apart? What happens when the people you trusted walk away and the prayers you cried out feel like they went unanswered? Let me tell you something real. Faith isn't proven on the mountaintop. It's proven in the valley. Faith isn't measured by how loud you shout when things are good. It's measured by how steady you stand when everything falls apart. There comes a moment in every life where the faith you profess gets tested by the life you live. And that moment will reveal the truth, not to God because he already knows, but to you. That's when faith gets real. That's when you find out whether your trust is rooted in the blessings or in the one who blesses. Is your faith built on comfort or on commitment? Because the truth is, real faith doesn't say, God, I trust you if you bless me. Real faith says, God trusts you even if you don't. Let's talk about a man who lived this. Inky Johnson. He had a dream to make it to the NFL, not just for the fame, but to lift his family out of poverty. He trained, he worked, he prayed, he honored God every step of the way. He was one game away from the draft, and then it happened. One tackle, one hit, and just like that, his right arm was paralyzed for life. His NFL dream, gone. His plan, destroyed. So what did Inky do? Did he walk away from God? Did he quit on life? No. Because his faith wasn't built on the outcome. It was built on obedience. He didn't trust God for the results. He trusted God no matter the results. That's when faith gets its weight. That's when faith becomes more than a word. It becomes a weapon. Let me ask you this. How do you respond when the test comes? Do you get bitter or do you get better? Do you blame God or do you press in deeper? Because every test of your faith is a chance to build your faith. Faith doesn't grow in comfort. Faith grows in conflict. It grows when it's stretched. It grows when it's challenged. It grows when you say, God, I don't understand this, but I still believe you. Look at the Bible. Abraham waited decades for a child. Job lost everything, but still said, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Jesus himself in the Garden of Gethsemane cried out, Father, if it be possible, take this cup from me, but not my will, yours be done. If the Son of God had to walk through pain with faith, so will we. But here's the good news, says faith doesn't remove the fire. It carries you through it. And what comes out on the other side is something stronger, something unshakable, something eternal. Maybe you're going through something right now that you don't understand. Maybe you've prayed and the answer hasn't come. Maybe life has knocked you down harder than you expected. But I'm here to tell you, that is where faith does its best work. Not in comfort, but in the test. Not when the storm is calm, but when the storm is raging and you're still standing. Because faith says, I may be hurting, but I'm not quitting. I may not have the answers, but I have access to the one who does. I may be walking through fire, but I know who's walking with me. Faith isn't about what you feel. It's about what you know. And here's what you need to know. God is still good, even when life is not. God is still present, even when you feel alone. God is still in control, even when everything looks out of control. You don't need faith for the easy parts. You need faith for the days when nothing makes sense. And you choose to believe anyway. That's where power is. That's where strength is. That's where God meets you. Not in your perfection, but in your persistence. So if your faith is being tested right now, don't curse the test. Because a faith that's never tested is a faith that can't be trusted. You're not being punished. You're being proven. You're being forgotten. You're being forged. And on the other side of this test, a deeper fire, a stronger spirit, a faith that stands. Not because it never shook, but because it refused to fall. There's something you need to understand today. Your life is not just about you. Your pain, your struggles, your comeback, your tears, none of it is wasted because your story is bigger than you. We live in a world that says, make it about you, your name, your platform, your money, your comfort. But God didn't create you just for success. He created you for significance. And significance is never selfish. Sometimes God will write a chapter in your life that doesn't make sense to you because it wasn't meant just for you. You're thinking, why did I go through that pain? Why did I have to lose that dream? Why did I get broken right when I was about to rise? It's because your scars are someone else's survival guide. Your storm may be the very thing that gives someone else shelter. You see, your story is not just about what happens to you. It's about what flows through you to others. Inky Johnson didn't get to play in the NFL. That was his dream. That was his everything. But when his right arm was paralyzed, he had to wrestle with this hard truth. What do I do now that my plan is gone? He could have quit. He could have been bitter. But instead, he chose something most people don't too. He chose purpose over pain. And now thousands, maybe millions, are living stronger, fighting harder, and believing deeper because of his story. Because he understood this isn't just about me. It never was. You don't go through what you go through just to sit on it. You go through it so you can reach back and help someone else. So you can say, hey, I know what it feels like. I've been there. I made it. And so can you. Your story is someone else's hope. Your story is someone else's light. Your story is someone else's lifeline. Maybe your childhood was rough. Maybe you've lost things you thought you couldn't live without. Maybe life has broken you so deeply, you don't even recognize yourself anymore. And you think, why me? But what if it wasn't just about what God is doing for you? What if it's about what he's doing through you? Your pain wasn't random. Your journey wasn't wasted. Every setback, every tear, every sleepless night, it all becomes evidence that survival is possible, that redemption is real. You don't need a microphone to have a message. You don't need a stage to be a light. You just need to live your story authentically, boldly, and with the understanding that it's touching lives whether you see it or not. You see, we often pray for God to use us, but then we get frustrated when he writes the story his way instead of ours. But real purpose, it rarely comes through ease. It comes through endurance. It comes when you keep going, not for applause, but for impact. The people who've inspired you most, did they live perfect lives? No. They lived broken, battered, redeemed, real lives. And that's what the world needs more of. Not filtered success, but raw testimony. Your story is not too messy. Your past is not too ugly. Your pain is not too deep. In fact, the deeper the pain, the stronger the purpose. Because here's what you've got to remember. Somebody is praying for the strength you've already gained. Somebody is searching for the hope you've already found. Somebody is drowning in what you've already walked through. So don't hold it back. Don't hide the parts of your story that hurt. Don't be ashamed of the struggle, because that's what gives your victory value. You might not be where you want to be, but you're not where you used to be. And that journey, that testimony, It matters. It matters to the teenager thinking about giving up. It matters to the parent fighting silent battles. It matters to the broken soul who just needs to hear, you're not alone. You may never know how many lives your story will change, but that doesn't mean it's not changing them. Your legacy isn't just built by what you achieve. It's built by who you impact. So when you're tired, when you're discouraged, when you want to walk away, remember this, your story is bigger than you. It's not just about your name. It's about the names that will never be forgotten because you didn't give up. You were made to carry light. You were made to lift others. You were made to matter for something greater than yourself. There are moments in life where you wonder, why me? Why did I have to suffer like that? Why did I have to walk through fire, through betrayal, through heart, through sickness? Why did I have to lose what I prayed to keep? And maybe for a long time, you got no answers, just silence, just struggle, just survival. But here's the truth you need to hear today. Your survival is not just a testimony of your strength. It's someone else's hope. You didn't survive by accident. You didn't make it out just to breathe easier. You made it out so you could reach back and show somebody else the way through. See, we think we're the only ones dealing with it. The depression, the loss, the trauma, the shame. But you're not alone. You never were. And the very thing the enemy used to try to destroy you, God can use to deliver someone else. Your scars are not ugly. They're not something to hide. They're evidence. Evidence that the fight was real, that the pain was deep, but the grace was greater. You survived what others didn't. Not because you're stronger or better, but because your story had a purpose beyond your own healing. Somebody needs to see that a person like you went through all that and still got up. Somebody's praying for the strength that's already in your bones. Somebody is drowning in what you already swam through. You think your story is too dark, too broken, too messy to matter. No, your story is exactly what they need. There are people walking around with silent battles, fighting alone, crying at night, smiling in public, but dying on the inside. And your survival says you're not crazy, you're not weak, and you're not alone. Your pain became a bridge, and bridges were never built for one person to cross. You made it through so someone else could follow. You found the way out so you could go back in and lead others to freedom. We live in a world that glorifies success, money, fame, and comfort. But real power, real impact is found in the story behind the smile, the fight behind the faith, the hell you went through and didn't let break you. That's what gives people hope. Because if you made it through your storm, maybe they can survive theirs. If you stood up after that loss, maybe they can rise too. If you kept believing after the worst happened, maybe they don't have to give up either. That's why it matters that you keep going. That's why it matters that you share your truth. Because someone is hanging on by a thread and your voice might be the only one they trust. And hear me on this. You don't have to be perfect to give hope. You just have to be honest. You don't have to have it all together. You just say, I've been there too. That one sentence, that one story. It could be what saves a life. Inky Johnson didn't survive his injury for his own comfort. He survived so he could stand in front of millions and say, look, I lost everything I thought I needed, but I still found purpose. His survival gives hope. Hope that pain won't have the last word. Hope that you can lose everything and still rise with something better. And if you look at your life, if you really zoom out, you'll see that the things that almost broke you became the things that made you. Not just for your sake, but for others. Your survival says, I lost a parent, but I still grew. I was abandoned, but I still love. I got sick, but I still believe. I was rejected, but I still rise. It says, I didn't think I'd make it either. But look at me now. I'm still here. And if I can make it, you can too. So if you're wondering if your story matters, if your pain was for anything, if your survival had a purpose, let me tell you now, yes. 1,000 times yes. Because your survival is someone else's hope. Your scars are someone else's healing. Your truth is someone else's light. You didn't come this far just to live quietly. You came this far so others wouldn't have to walk alone. So speak, shine, share, live out loud, because your survival is a gift, not just to you, but to the world.